Okay, everyone, it's time to kick off. See a few faces here that I saw on Monday, so thank you for coming twice in a week to a Bath Astronomers gig. That's unheard of, so thank you very much. Much appreciated. School's out, but as someone pointed out with the getting rid of the summer solstice means that winter is coming. So that's good. The nights are now getting longer. So we're the only people in Bath who are praising that particular fact there. The usual touch points, our membership has dropped over the last month. I think everyone's just wilted away, but we've gone down from 167 down to 161. But you never know. As things come on, September time, we'll bolster up again. If you do want to get something in for the newsletter, it's this Friday is the deadline. So any budding sort of Shakespeares out there, please get writing. And we'll then get that published over the weekend. And so that'll be July's edition. We'll try and cobble, we always do. We do editions in August and for the start of September as well. So please feel free. When you're on that beach and you go, I'm bored of that third tequila, or sort of whatever mojito cocktail you have, perhaps pen to paper, start typing on your phone and get us an article. That'd be great. So what have you missed? We always have this little section on what have you missed of the last month. So Prim, apologies, you've got into another one, but it's your back. It's okay. We ran a planetarium session up at the Hub on Mulberry Park, and we've got a good relationship with them. They're actually giving us the venue for free, and they've asked us back in August as well. So just today we've been trying to organise the shape of that. So it looks like we'll be doing more workshops in August for them. We've been to schools. This is St George's down in Warminster, and we did solo observing with them. I think we did, I'm trying to remember, year 5 and year 6 down there. And we've been doing the start of the fairs as well. So this young lady here is pumping up the rocket launcher, Roger's rocket launcher, ready to fire off paper rockets all over the place. She's in one of our outfits. For the dressing up that we did. This is Bath Eastern, just this weekend gone, and she took advantage of the face painting that was going on there. So it's always good fun. So if you want to get involved in some of that kind of fun, we've got a few events over the summer into early September that you can get involved in. And we had a team at the Herschel Museum on Saturday for the... Well, Saturday, wasn't it? Feels such a long time ago. Yeah, God, it feels a long time ago, but it was only last Saturday. So we had 3 people at the museum with guests there. So we were Bath Eastern at one side of Bath at the Bath Eastern Fete, and we were also at the Herschel Museum running solar observing at both. So lots of people got seen. And we've also been at Wells Activity Centre. No, what's getting my name wrong now? Mendip Activity Centre, the place with the ski slopes and all of that. There's a big campsite behind it, and we did a weekend of astronomy, stargazing, guided stargazing, and they also had an alien-themed day. So I was surrounded by people in inflatable alien costumes, which is kind of a bit surreal. But most of it was kind of fun with solar gazing, etc. And of course, on Monday, we took part in this. Nights, 1,355 new asteroids discovered by Rubin Observatory, and by night 7, 2,104 brand new asteroids were discovered. But it's a tiny portion of the sky. That's what they were looking at in 1 week. And they found 2,104 brand new asteroids. So there's going to be a lot more asteroids discovered. Okay, so what have we got coming up? Okay, we've got the break now for over July and August, but we'll be back in September. We're kicking off with Dr. Robert Massey, who's the Deputy Director of the Royal Astronomical Society, so it's a good kick-off there. And we've got sort of almost a full program. I think we've got one more slot to fill in 2026, and then we've got a full program. So if you have any ideas, you hear anyone, you see a talk, whether it be online, YouTube, whatever, just drop us a line and we'll see what we can find. Okay, we'll contact people. All they can ever say is no. Okay? A lot of them say yes. So let's ask the question. First order of business, a quick EGM. At the last AGM back in, November, we took a vote and we decided to become a charity, or make the attempt to become a charity. In December, we were rejected by the Charity Commission for England and Wales because our governing document wasn't strong enough. And they said, if you want to get through this stage, a charity applying now should follow our pro formas. So things like the Herschel Society, that became a charity many, many moons ago, 30 or 40 years ago, you could do it with a sheet of A4. Now you've got a dirty, great big document that's about 16 to 20 pages long, which just basically goes around what an organisation led by trustees needs to do, how it governs itself via those trustees, responsibilities of those trustees within the organisation. And so it's all been sent out, so hopefully those that have got an interest have actually managed to read that. I hope we've had a few people actively engaged in that. Because what we'd like to do now is that to resubmit our application to the Charity Commission with this as a revised governance document. The key things that are different, really, are the fact that instead of a coordination team that we currently have, the governance document only refers to trustees. But we're going to keep the coordination team, but essentially the trustees are on the coordination team. So the trustees are using the coordination team to help spread the load, but the responsibility in the new document is with the 3 trustees that we've outlined. Okay, so that's one of the differences. The other one is a very strong objective. Why does the charity exist? And so we've got the objective written down here. And you'll see it's very much about outreach. It's about taking astronomy and stargazing out to a wider community, a wider public, and with a specific bent on younger audiences, so under 18s, and what we can do there. But it's a very broad objective, in it's just taking astronomy to the public. So those are the 2 differences. It's actually trustees that are in control and doing the managing and responsible, rather than the coordination team, and it's these revised objectives. So hopefully people had a chance to look at that. If anyone has any concerns, feel free either to raise them now or you can raise them via email. But essentially what I want to do now is actually take a vote. If I have concerns coming up afterwards, we'll review them as the coordination team to see if they're sufficient enough. But if you've got a really big problem with it, now's probably the time to raise your point before we go to a vote. So if anyone feels very strongly that there's something that we're missing here or something they want us to work through, then please let us know now before we take a vote. It'll just make it a little bit easier to go on to the next stage.
No problem. Can I make a point about the difference between you and Herschel Society?
Yeah.
It's still the case. Who wants to can have very simple, straightforward charity document. But what you'll find is that the trustees are ultimately responsible for what happens and everything go wrong. So if you're going to be involved in doing more training activities, the last one is Herschel Society isn't. You need to have a more elaborate form, and this is what we're already gone down now.
Yeah.
So last one is easier, Herschel Society doesn't.
And essentially, this is the Charity Commission's pro forma for the type of organisation that we would like to be. So what we've done is we've actually gone through it, we've changed a couple of words, but pretty much 99% of the document, other than the objectives, is pro forma. And that's we can adopt and we can work the way they want a charity to work. And so that'll hopefully get us through this hurdle a lot easier. Okay? So what I'd like is to, as we have no sort of immediate concerns there, can I have a show of hands for those that are willing? I'll just say, at the moment, we'll continue to run with our constitution. We'll make the application, but until that application actually is agreed by the Charity Commission, we're still running under our existing constitution. At the point we're made a charity by the Charity Commission, this becomes our governing document. But at the moment, it's just essentially a working document until the Charity Commission agrees it. Our constitution, current constitution still holds until we get charity status. Okay, at which point the documents will flip. Our controlling documents will flip. Okay, hopefully that's made it clearer. Yeah? So nothing changes on the safeguarding side. So our policy on safeguarding stays. We've got a number of people that do hold DBS and enhanced DBS. Nothing changes there because all of those are on a personal level. They're not actually directly, we don't do DBS via Bath astronomers. So the fact that organisationally it's changing around a little bit doesn't affect any DBS status. Okay? Okay. There's nothing else. A quick show of hands for those that are in favour of moving forward and sending this document, this revised governance document, through to the Charity Commission to hopefully move forward on our application to become a charity for England and Wales. Show of hands? Okay. Martin, are you taking a record of this? Yeah. And anyone that's against? Okay. That's passed. We have a majority. Thank you very much. That was the boring bit done. So we got through, oh gosh, quite a few, 5 to get through. So hopefully we'll whiz straight on to them. And I'm suggesting alphabetical order for the talks before we get on to our coordination team who want to talk to us about merchandise. I think Martin's going to do a little bit of a fashion walk for us. Okay, maybe it's PowerPoints. Okay, by his expression, it's going to be PowerPoints. And share with you some ideas because Bath Astronomers was formed in March 1976. Back end of March 1976. So next March is our 50th anniversary. It was called Bath Astronomical Society back then, but essentially that's our heritage, so we want to celebrate that. So we've got some ideas we'd like to share with you tonight about what we might do in March next year to celebrate that 50th. Okay. Yeah, there'll be alcohol. Yeah. Okay, well, with that, I'll hand over to Alan. So I'll do a little bit of swapping it over on the Zooms. Not the Zooms, but the...
Hi there, my name's Alan Senior. I've been retired now for about 6 years and I started astrophotography about 4 years ago. My first systems were pretty heavy. It took me 4 trips out into the garden to set them up, but they were very capable setups. Now back in 2024, we were heading off to the States and I realized that I had an opportunity to take a picture of the Rho Ophiuchi cloud complex, which is something I'd always wanted to take, but I didn't really have any portable equipment to do that. So I started looking into portable systems, and since then I've come up with 4 portable systems that I take around the world or wherever I'm traveling, including I use them in the garden as well because they're so easy to take out. Okay, so why do you need a portable system? Well, this sort of tells the story really. This comes from an app called Light Pollution Map, and you can see that, whoops, wrong button. You can see here, there we are, and this is what's called the Bortle scale. And if you're in the middle of a city, it's red on the map, and if you're out in the country, it's hopefully blue. And you can see that we're in an area where it's quite light polluted. But in mid-Wales and in North Devon here, it's actually pretty good. So it's a nice place to travel. It's not that you can't take pictures in the garden. I live here between Bath and Bristol. You can, but it's just much easier if you go to a dark sky. You get much better detail in your pictures and you get much better detail quicker. Okay, so what do I call portable? Well, it's got to be grab and go and it's got to fit into one bag. I want to take it on board an aircraft if I can, so it's got to fit into an airline carry-on bag, this really means that the weight has to be less than about 7 kilograms, because typically carry-on bag has to be about 10 kilograms maximum. So this really limits you on what equipment you can take. This is this is a telescope that actually weighs 160 tons. The mirror itself is 3.5 tons. It's the McDonald Observatory in Texas where we were going, and we visited this telescope, and they give you a nice tour. But obviously, this is rather impractical if you're traveling. So we're down to 7 kilograms. These are the sort of systems I've used. Now, mobile phone technology is absolutely incredible these days. You've got multiple cameras in there. There's software which allows you to take pictures of Milky Ways, starscapes, and it processes them for you, and you just hit the button and it takes them. You can even handhold 3-second exposures easily, whereas normally you'd have to use a camera for that, and you get star trails and wiggly stars all over the place. So the mobile phone is one system I take everywhere, and it's got incredible apps on it as well. So you've got star maps, you've got Google Maps, so you can plan where you're going. You've got the light pollution map, so you can see where it's good to go. You've got weather apps, so you can see what the weather's going to be. Astronomy apps, so you can see whether it's going to be a dark moon, a new moon, so that you can take pictures in a dark sky. The next system I use is DLSR, or mirrorless camera. There's lots of different makes: Canon, Nikon, Sony, etc. They're very good for certain types of astrophotography, but not all types, so you wouldn't be able to take planets, for example, easily. And then there's a new range of smart telescopes that have come online. These are all in one system, so you just plonk them down, switch them on, and if you're in the Bath Astronomy Society, then you can actually get these on loan. I don't know how many Simon's got, but I think we've got 3 systems, have we? We've
got 2 smart.
2 smart telescopes, so you can borrow them given certain conditions and take them home and try it. And they're very easy. They need relatively few skills. You just plonk them down, connect to them with your mobile phone, and you can start pointing around in the sky. And then there's what I created was a bespoke system which uses a lens and a cooled camera. I'll go through each of these 4 setups. I'll show you pictures I've taken with these different setups, and well, hopefully you'll be encouraged to do something yourself. So these are the sort of categories of things that I like to take. There's sunrise, sunset. This is very easy to do with a phone camera, smart scope, or even a custom scope. Aurora, we've had some really nice spectacular aurora displays in the UK. Smartphones are really good for that. Starscapes, all these systems can take that. Star trails are time lapse. There's apps available on your phone and on the cameras with the software on a computer that you can do star trails and time lapse, which is good fun if there's clouds moving across a starscape or a sunset. Milky Way, you can do Milky Ways with a phone. You typically use an app because you need a long exposure. So you might need a 30-second exposure. A 30-second exposure in dark skies will show the Milky Way, and you'll get the stars. Luckily, mobile phones these days have got image stabilization built in, so you can do 3-second exposures just by pointing at the sky, press the button, hold it as still as you can, and it's amazing. You just wouldn't be able to do that with a normal camera. Sun, moon photos. The sun and the moon are pretty small things, so I would say a phone is not particularly good. There are zoom lenses on phones, but the detail is relatively limited. Eclipses, you can do wild field eclipses, but really you need a camera with a longer lens. Comets, yes, you can capture them. Quite small in the field of view, but with a camera and DLSR you can really bring up the detail. Planets, very difficult to do planets. The trouble with astronomy is that there's a huge variety in the sizes of objects. Planets are like dots in the sky. Nebulae can be 30 times the diameter of the moon across. And obviously, Milky Ways are 90 degrees, fill the sky. So there's a huge range of sizes, and not one system won't do them well, or all of these things well. There's nebulae. Phones aren't very good with nebulae. Nebulae are very dark, dim objects, but with a camera, a DLSR or a mirrorless camera, you can, if you've got a tracker, so that you can track the stars and you can take much longer exposures. Galaxies are pretty tiny. There's one big one up there, which is about 5 times the size of the moon, which is M31. You can capture a smudge on a mobile phone, but really, again, you need a DLSR system. And then there's clusters, and clusters really show as just points of light with these systems, and you need something with a bit more magnification, a bit longer focal length lens to capture clusters. So this is the mobile phone setup I've got. It's worth having one of these holders. I've got one over here, which I can show you. Very simple. You just clip your phone in there. You can plop it down. Some mobile phones, you just talk to them and say capture, and they take a picture, or you can get a remote trigger. And this allows you to take much longer exposures. These are some pictures I've taken. Sunsets are very easy with mobile phones. So this one on the right was taken at Coley Peak, which is just to the north of Bath. I can't remember where this one was taken. There's some nice reflections in the water there. This is again mobile phone pictures. This is the total solar eclipse last year. It was we took this from Waco in Texas. My wife Rosemary took this on her mobile phone. You can even see Venus there because it gets so dark during an eclipse. So the stars, some of the brighter stars and the planets will show up. This one we took on a Norwegian cruise. We took one of these Hurtigruten boats up. I took a DLSR camera, but my wife took much, much better pictures on her iPhone. And that's simply because the boat was moving. So I couldn't do a long exposure, and she could just hold the camera up. The image stabilization in the camera was so good. I don't know if you see them very well, but there's even stars in this image which show up really well. This one was taken in Iceland. It was just an opportunistic thing. It happened to be a partial eclipse, and there was dark cloud which was sufficient to dim the sun down. So these are all mobile phone pictures. This one was taken in Tenerife this year. It's something I've been meaning to take for some time. I don't know if you can see, there's a slight glow up here. Can we just dim the lights down at all? Okay. This is called the zodiacal light. It was taken with a phone. It's a 60-second exposure. And it's on an Android phone, which has got an app called Expert RAW. This takes multiple pictures and stacks them. This was actually done on a tripod using that little holder there. You can see Orion here, the Sword of Orion, the 3 stars in the belt. This is Jupiter. Mars is, I think that's Mars there. No, I think Mars is just off the field of view there. This is Castor and Pollux. But can you see this band of light up here? This is called the false dawn, or the zodiacal light, and this is dust in the ecliptic plane that's orbiting the sun. So we've got asteroids, which are obviously rocks, but there's also lots of particles of dust. This is taken about 1.5 hours after sunset. So the next setup that I use is a DLSR mirrorless camera. I've got a setup over there which has got a long lens on it. This is the setup. I've got this on a star tracker here. It's not really needed for this particular lens. This is a wide-angle lens, which is very good for starscapes and Milky Ways. You can get 20, 30-second exposures without this star tracker. But this moves with the stars so that you don't get star trails. With a long lens, you can do the sun, the moon, you can do nebulae, and with a star tracker, as I said, you just get rid of the star trails. So this is some pictures. This was taken down in Devon. This is light pollution here from Bridport. I went to a dark sky location that I found on Google Maps, and I thought it was going to be brilliant, but as you can see, there's the Milky Way up there. This is the core of the Milky Way. But you can see this is all light pollution. It should really be as dark as this or as dark as this. But that's Bridport. It's just a light dome. There's a particularly interesting star here, which is Antares. So there's, this is in Scorpius. It comes down here, and there's the tails here and the claws of Scorpius up there. I'll be showing some pictures of this region in the slides to come. This is another one which is taken with a 300mm lens. This is Venus. This is the moon, and you can't see it, but no, you can't see it on this slide, but there's a tiny little dot here, there it is, which is Mercury. Again, that was taken at Coley Peak. This is from the recent eclipse. This is taken out looking out over Bristol from a hill just north of Bath. So you've got the light pollution of Bristol, so you can't see any stars. This is actually a crescent moon, which is just about to set. You can see that the aurora was so bright that it was easily visible to the eye and picked up the camera. This isn't enhanced at all. This one I have enhanced a little bit. I actually took a trip to the Brecons Beacons to the dark sky site. But as I was driving there in October last year, the sky was green, and I thought, oh, this is peculiar. And when I got there, I realized it was actually aurora. So I couldn't do any deep sky photography because it was all clouded with the aurora around. So the equipment I took, but obviously it was nice to take pictures of the aurora. These were pictures taken with a DLSR and a 300mm lens. This is from the 2017 eclipse, the first time I'd ever taken astrophotography image. You can also take the moon quite effectively with a 300mm lens, and this is the eclipse last year in Texas. So this one was in Casper, Wyoming. This is the one this year, I think it was in March. There was a partial eclipse visible from the UK, so you can see the lens has even picked up a dark spot there, which is a sunspot. The sun's very active at the moment, which is why we're getting aurora. This is kind of a fun thing to do. I mean, this is my first attempt at light painting. So this is the Milky Way up there, and all I did was put it on a 30-second exposure, walk out in front of the camera, and then I had a red head torch on. I just waved it around. But there's some very sophisticated light paintings with animals and incredible light paintings on the web that you see. So this is a bit amateurish, this one. I did actually capture a meteor there, and it's very faint, but there's a satellite trail there, all these annoying satellites. Okay, smart telescopes. This is something I mentioned earlier. The Society's got 2 of these, which Society members can borrow. They're very easy to set up. They're compact, they're portable. This is an equipment, this one's called the Dwarf 3 telescope. I bought this one last week, so I haven't had time to take many pictures. It's very easy to use. You sit it down, you switch on your phone, you tell it what you want to image, and it pretty much goes and does it. It looks at the stars, figures out where it's looking, and then you can just choose what you want to image, and it will just image it and send the pictures direct to your phone. Very effective, very light, and it's absolutely pretty incredible. This one's got a keep pressing the wrong button, apologies. This one's got a wide-angle lens here, and this is a solar filter, like a pair of sunglasses, so you can take pictures of the sun, and this is the telephoto lens here. So you can not only do Milky Way, wide-angle, you can also do nebulae with this, sun, moon, and even small, the bigger galaxies. Very, very good. And it's only 1.3 kilograms. They start at around £350. This particular one is about 500, just over £500. Amazing little bits of kit, really bringing astrophotography to the masses in a way. No more complication of setting up computers, etc. Just use your phone, switch it on. These are some images I've taken. This is the sun, and you can see there's a few more sunspots here. Better than the 300mm lens that I had. It actually takes several images and then stacks them. This is actually a cropped image. It's not quite as big in the field of view, but you can crop it on your phone, and this is the image you get. This is not exactly an eye candy picture, not very interesting, but this star is quite interesting. This is in T Corona Borealis, and this is a star that goes supernova every 80 years. And 80 years has passed since it last went supernova. So this one's been in the press. They thought it was going to explode last year. This is a very dim object at the moment. You wouldn't be able to see it with a naked eye. You could probably see it in binoculars. Very difficult to find, but the telescope found it easily. Just straight away, I just pointed it at on a star map, zoom in, zap, it was there. Incredible. So this is a reference image. When it goes off, it'll probably be bright for maybe 2 weeks. I'm hoping to get another image with it being very bright, and then it'll be visible to the naked eye. Okay, so this is my custom setup. I put this together because we were going off to America, and I wanted to capture this large nebulae called Rho Ophiuchi. It's a Rho Ophiuchi cloud complex, very pretty, very colourful, and it's just too low in the sky in the UK to get a good picture. The lower the sky in the object, in the sky the object is, the dimmer it will be because of atmosphere. This has got a filter draw in it as well, so I can put filters in, very effective at cutting down light pollution and bringing out the colours of the nebulae. It's technically challenging though. It uses a Windows 11 PC. It's got a fast lens, so this is actually a standard Sigma lens here. It's got a cooled camera. It's got the star tracker so that I can do long exposures. This one will run on a battery for about 3 hours. There's down, you can't see here, but there's a Windows PC, and the battery is just in a sling in the tripod. The whole lot weighs about 7 kilograms, so I can take it on board. This is it fitting into a bag. This is a standard carry-on bag. You can see the tripod there, power adapter for going to America, backup hard drive, power pack, lens and cameras hidden there, star tracker, and here's some filters in the cables. This is the picture I finally took. A Rho Ophiuchi cloud complex. Rho Ophiuchi's up here. These are all dust clouds, so you think, well, there's no stars here. There's absolute massive stars here because it's near the Milky Way. This is illuminated by Antares, which I mentioned earlier in the picture. This is M4 cluster. There's another cluster there. And I think there's another cluster up here somewhere. A little one, maybe that one. But if you notice that tiny smudge there. Now, I was looking at James Webb Space Telescope images, and they said, oh, they photographed the Rho Ophiuchi area. And I thought, well, where on earth did they take this picture? So I was looking at it, and I figured out that they actually took this tiny little smudge here. Now, I can't compete with a £10 billion telescope, but if you zoom in to that little tiny smudge there, this is what it looks like on my image, but this is what James Webb Space Telescope did. You can see there's a star there, it corresponds to that star there. So just imagine the detail that would be in this if the James Webb, took the whole area. If you've seen the Vera C. Rubin telescope results, I think that's going to be incredible if it takes a picture of this cloud complex. This again is this is Rho Ophiuchi again, but these are some of the dust clouds. And this is what's called the Blue Horsehead Nebula. Difficult to take from the UK, it is possible, but in Texas, in the dark skies, this was just 3 hours of integration, which is not a lot in terms of astrophotography. You can see all the dust clouds here. These are the blue stars which are illuminating the dust. Okay, this system also I've taken up to Coley Peak, and this I think is Comet T. Suchinchan, I can't remember. And I think this is Pons Brooks. So when we went over to America to take the total eclipse in 2024, there was an opportunity to take a picture of this. I think this is Pons Brooks, and it was quite challenging because it's quite near the horizon, but it's a great one because it's got all these twisting tails. It looks like this is spinning. I don't know if you've ever seen the Bayeux Tapestry, but there's a picture of a comet on there, and it's got sort of a blob with sort of 3 big tails coming out. I thought, well, comets don't look like that. And then I saw this image, and I thought, well, actually, they can look like that. This is some of the challenges you get with taking a picture. This is what a single frame looked like, and you can see satellite images through here. And it was really annoying because all these Starlink satellites were just streaming through here. I took 20 minutes and stacked it, and it looks a bit green, but that's because the sensitivity of the camera is highest in green. But when you image process it, you can extract the detail. So these are exactly the same. There's the comet head, comet head, comet head. And the software does an amazing job. It's called software called PixInsight, and all these are satellite trails. I counted them. There's 50 satellites went through this image in 20 minutes. These little wiggly lines are because the star tracker is slightly imperfect, and they're hot pixels which draw trails. But the software extracts all those. It's amazing. This is the last image for you. Again, this is my custom setup. This was taken in my back garden. This is Polaris. I don't know if you know about Polaris. It's the star where all the other stars seem to rotate around. It's in the north. It's about 52 degrees up. And all this dust, I didn't think I'd be able to capture it for my garden because it's Bortle 5, Bortle 6, quite light polluted. The moon was up, but I let the system run for 3 hours, processed it on the computer afterwards, and this dust is actually outside of our galactic plane. So it's outside of the Milky Way, and it's illuminated by all the stars in our galaxy. So it's a long, long way away. Extremely faint, quite difficult to capture. So any questions?
Does the moon shoot move and it's 7 kilo? Sorry? Does your moon shoot move and all that 7 kilo?
Oh, okay. The Move Shoot Move tracker will handle 3.5 kilograms, so I am pushing it a bit. It's 2.9 is the lens and camera, so 7 kilograms includes the tripod, the batteries, it's everything that was in the bag. I mean, the lens itself, I think, is 1.2 kilograms. The camera is about 800 grams. It all adds up. The tripod, I think, is 1.2.
Have you ever had problems with security or airports in smuggling or into the country?
Yeah, you can have trouble with airports because airlines don't like you carrying big batteries on board, so there's a limit of 100 watt hours. So I had to make sure these were about 86 watt hours. It's written on the bottom. We happened to be traveling in China at one point, and the staff made me get all the batteries out, and they were looking at all the readings on the batteries to make sure they met the capacity. In America, we didn't have trouble because in the USA, they've got very sophisticated scanners. It just went through. They didn't even look at it. In the UK, when we left, I was pulled to one side, and they said, "Can we have a look in the bag?" And he said, "Oh, wow." I said, "It's photographic equipment." He said, "Yeah, okay." And he just shut the bag, and I went on. But I wouldn't put it in the hold. I've put the tripod in the hold, but I don't put anything of the rest in the hold. It's just, it's kind of valuable and delicate.
And what phone have you got that you took those really cool pictures on? Because I can hardly take a picture of the moon on my phone. I've got quite a modern, I've got Google Pixel 8, so it's quite a modern phone. But your pictures on your phone are really good.
Okay, well, someone we're taking an iPhone, my wife's iPhone, which is a 12 Pro Max.
That's the most modern, I think.
Yeah, it's a 16 one that I took the actual light is the Samsung S25 Ultra, which is the most expensive handheld phone. But I used to buy cheaper phones, but when I saw my wife's pictures, I thought, heck, that's fine.
Yeah, but this is a pretty.
Yeah, you'll be fine. You just need an app for it. I use extra raw, but it may be just the Samsung. I don't know.
I just put all of mine just for automatic exposure.
Yeah.
I tried taking pictures. I'm gonna take pictures of sunsets, but like moon and stuff. Well, I've never seen it before, but you know, I tried to take a picture of the moon and it just comes out like a large. And then you took that picture of the, well, you know, it was the
I would get decent ones with the good handhold or anything like that. You know, anywhere around the software or the settings that people have got.
Yeah.
So,
But you guys took really good pictures on the phone, so that's what I have. I don't have it on my phone. So,
it's those sorts of things.
well, yeah, of course. But I would like, if I'm going to get a new phone, I would like to get a phone that's going to be able to take good pictures. So that's what I did.
The best thing to do.
Yeah, unfortunately, they're the expensive ones. I think the capability of the premium phones is a bit like having electric windows on a car. I used to have to wind them down on my car, but now all cars have got electric windows. So the technology tends to move down the chain. But you don't want, I mean, what the S25 has got a 200 megapixel camera, 200 megapixel, but that doesn't mean anything. You don't want that. It's actually got a 12 megapixel, which is the best because it's a better noise performance. So megapixels is a selling point for a phone, but it's not so good for astrophotography. But I think,
That's the little, yeah. I mean, how, you got that with you?
sorry?
Have you got the dwarf thing with you? The dwarf?
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't bring that out.
Can I see how it
So this is the door through the telescope. You magnets on the telescope. On a tripod, sorry.
Do you have to have a big tripod for it?
You can have a small tripod. You can have a little three-legged tripod. You put it down, and then it switches on. This will start looking at the stars. Focus it. This is a pair of sunglasses, so you look at the sun or the sensor out. It's very clever. It's actually got a periscope mirror in there, so the telescope actually on this distance here. It's got a wide angle for Milky Ways. It's got this long angle, which is about 750 millimeters of film, so you can take liquid, etc. When you just start using it, so right off front, I'm so impressed by the pictures other people take with it, but it's 4.3 kilograms. I probably want to take the bags and stuff in the bag. 1.3 kilograms. You really need to put it on a tripod. There are some nice ones, the ZWO, I think we've got the ZWO.
That's quite a bit bigger.
It's a bit bigger than this. This one's a little bit more complicated to use than just the settings you've got set, but there's tutorials that you can do that. Yeah, so this is just too heavy.
Oh, you take them as a tripod with you then?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't take the big kit in places where I haven't got a car or I've got my own itinerary, because if you're on a trip, you know, your itinerary means you might be in a city and then the skies are clear and then you're out and you've just been away to see something incredible, but you know, you're not available at night and the coach is leaving the next day or you can't get to the location. So, you know, I usually take that one on a road trip somewhere. The rest of it, I always take the camera with me and I always take the phone with me.
Right, so I feel that we've got these talks the wrong way around somehow. We're not going forwards with the content of this particular talk, but this is something I just wanted to contribute based on the fact that Alec and I have joined the Bath Astronomers At the end of last summer, Alex just gone, or coming towards the end of year 9 at school, and that's the year in which kids are very much encouraged to do the Duke of Edinburgh Bronze Award, and that's what we've been doing, and chosen astronomy as part of that. I don't know if you're familiar with the format of the Duke of Edinburgh Award. You have to do one physical activity, you have to do some volunteering, and you have to do a skill. 2 of those you do for 3 months, 1 you then elect to do for 6 months, and then of course in addition to that there's the expedition for which the DofE is probably best known. Now, and in terms of the skill, it says the section encourages the development of new skills or the improvement of existing ones. So you can very much, if you are learning a musical instrument, for example, you can use that existing activity as part of your activities. Alec does play football with the Bath City Youth team. That was his physical. Volunteering we did, I'm on the Friends of the Sandpits group over in Alford Park, and that was where we did litter picking in the Sandpits Park and in the streets around by request of the local councillor for Moorfields Ward. And but given that those things readily suggested themselves, but we were a little bit stuck actually for what to do as an activity. We spent quite a lot of time looking for inspiration on various sites, mainly, the Duke of Edinburgh website itself has got some suggestions as to things you might do as a skill, but they included things like, I don't mean to decry these, but ballet appreciation and ventriloquism and snail farming. We thought those weren't going to be for us. So, one thing that's important, I think, to say is that when we were deliberating which skill to do, I thought back to the outreach event which we had attended at Odd Down Playing Fields, where we'd seen the rockets pumping, where we'd spoken to Prim and seen through the solar telescope. And then I went onto the website for the Bath astronomers, and when I became aware that there were things like, the telescopes for loan, that's when I realized that that was a viable thing that we could have a go at and start from scratch, and that's what we then elected to do. And it's actually the item that or Alec elected to take on for the 6 months rather than the 3 months. I didn't want to let him just have his football, which he was already doing, and litter picking. I enjoy it, but it's not everyone's cup of tea for 6 whole months. And so this is just a little bit of an overview, really, of the timeline of the 6 months. And I say 6 months, notionally it's 6 months you have to complete. But obviously we're looking here at October, and here we are in June, and we haven't actually quite finished yet. We've got about 1 week or so left to do. We have experienced, as I'm sure you're mostly aware, one of the cloudiest winters on record. There were whole weeks, there were nearly whole months where we couldn't do anything because maybe on the night when it was clear we were doing other things, family activities, football, all sorts of other things. So it did take us quite a long time to get to even this point. But just going through, first of all, to talk about the equipment, we started out owning a pair or 2 pairs of 8x40 binoculars. I dusted off my old Swift Saratogas especially, and they've actually proved very useful for a lot of the things that we were doing. But we were very quickly able to borrow Caroline, which was the SkyMax 127 telescope with the red dot finder, very useful, and with the go-to mount as well, which was probably the most useful thing of all for beginners like us to actually find what we were trying to be looking for and looking at. And we started off, one of the first big items in the night sky when we started off was the comet, which everyone was talking about, and it was all over the news, which we managed to see from Lansdowne Playing Fields. And I think very shortly after that, I was doing football that night, but I attended a group watching event up at Monkton Combe School Fields. I saw the rings of Saturn for the first time, and that was a complete wow moment for me. And just to think that it's been there the whole time and I hadn't seen it, that was quite something. Very closely followed, actually, by then seeing the Galilean moons of Jupiter. That was also quite a jaw-dropper, I think, for both of us. And then we moved through the autumn, very much trying to get to know the constellations. Stellarium was great for that. The fact that you can just literally compare what you're seeing with an app that moves around as you do, and then you can actually switch it on to join all the dots up for you. That was great. So there's a terrible photo in the middle there of us on the top of Alec on the top of Twerton Round Hill. We did the hard yards in the freezing weather up there to view things which we knew to be out there somewhere. The image of the moon was taken just with a mobile phone through Caroline. That was something that Alec did. Some of the other pictures obviously are just sort of cribbed off the internet. January, February, the famous, I don't think I'm allowed to say planetary parade in a group like this, but that again was something that was all over the news, and at least it gave us the opportunity to go out and know that there were planetary objects for us to go out and look at. And then coming to the end of March, there was the partial solar eclipse, which gave us our 15 minutes of fame as the cover poster children for the Facebook group for the Bath astronomers. And then we were into the Vera era, as we would call it, and we were able, I've cribbed a picture of a nebula there, but we were able to get a number of, quite decent photos of objects which aren't visible so much with the naked eye. And Vera, although I won't say that we got to grips in great detail with stacking images and post-photographic processing or anything like that, but the very basic settings and the way it works is very good at just giving you views of things that you've never seen before, at least. And then more recently, there's not an awful lot to look at before boys' bedtimes other than the sun, really. And we've made Vera was able to help us see some of the major sunspots, etc. And then quite recently, we've been sufficiently inspired to actually have invested in a second-hand 8-inch Dobsonian telescope, which I very much enjoy using. It's come with quite a lot of decent eyepieces of different strengths and things like that. And you can see in the picture with Alec there that we've managed on the small aperture to fit some solar filter in there. So we've been able to use that to view the sun. It's a white filter, and that's very good for giving detail of sunspots, etc. And most recently, Alec doing geriatric outreach to his grandfather and a grandfather's friend, so spreading the word further, explaining how Vera works, and we were using that to take photographs of the sun at that time. So, I feel like we shouldn't have followed that previous talk here, but these are just some of the images that we've got. The 4 on the left are all with Vera. Those are just 2 of there's the pinwheel and there's one of the clusters. We probably got about sort of 14, 15, 16 sort of deep sky images, and we're very pleased and usually very surprised with the results. Things like the Owl Nebula and the surfboard, things like that. We do have a rudimentary phone mount for the Dobsonian telescope, and that's what we used. We were able to get that view of the moon recently. That's about as good as it's got, and we haven't had much time to take pictures with that much yet. But that's how it's gone. Just wanted to name key resources, and just to say, this I think has been a really good thing for us. It's been great for me. I think Alex enjoyed it as well, but I've managed to survive quite a number of years on the planet without knowing about all this stuff that's up there. The very basics, the plough and the moon. I think that's where I started back in September, and it's really been an education in many ways. So if you do know people, if you've got neighbours, or if you are meeting people who are coming into year 9, I think this is a really good thing to suggest, and especially with the resources that are available through Bath astronomers, but also there's the telescopes and the monthly newsletter, absolutely excellent. The things in there that you can run your eye down and say, okay, well, it's going to be clear on Tuesday. Wow, look at this. We can go for that, something to look at. I also listen to the Sky at Night Star Diary podcast every week. Comes out on a Sunday, I believe. I always listen to it on a Monday morning because that gave you a rundown of things to look at in that week. I'm not sure whether the extent to which that's still going as of the recent weeks, because one of the major presenters has stepped back, and it seems to be foundering a little bit at the moment. I was given an old Patrick Moore, Chris Lintott GCSE textbook, which was good for looking up some of the more technical stuff or just trying to get my head around some of the ideas about how telescopes work and the different types of telescopes and lots of other sort of basic things. I've mentioned the Stellarium app. There's also a website, the Sky Live, that has a visualizer of Jupiter's Galilean moons, which also allows you to play them through so that you can see where they're going to be at a certain time. You can put dates and times in and it will show you what's going to be going on, so that if you want to see one emerging from behind the disk of Jupiter, you know exactly what time that's going to happen and you can go out and literally see it happen, as it were. The Virtual Moon Atlas app as well, which we've got on the computer, which exactly models the terminator on any given time of day or night, so that you can model what you can go out and see at 9 o'clock that evening, and you can give yourself targets, individual craters, and those sorts of things to actually go and look at. So that was excellent. And Facebook groups have been really good as well. To join a few Facebook groups, you can see what other people are submitting in terms of photographs, and so that's a way of knowing what's out there right now to go and look at. So those have been really important for us. So it just remains to say a big thank you, especially to Simon for helping us with the telescopes and setting us up with all of those, but also to the sort of Bath astronomers as a whole. We've been to a few evenings which have been great. The members photograph show, which was at the back a few months ago, that was really inspirational as well, to see what everyone's doing at what I might say is the other end of the scale. But that's us. Thank you. Thank you.
So it's like, you know where it's Duke of Edinburgh, because my goddaughter's doing that, she's doing like a hiking, a camping trip. So is the camping trip like related to astronomy?
No.
That's just completely separate.
Yeah. So the expedition is just a sort of, it's a notional sort of endurance thing to show that as well as doing all of these different exercises, you've also got it in you to carry a bunch of kit on your back for, yeah. And I would say that expedition thing, it's been a fixture of Duke of Edinburgh for many, many years, and it's what most people know it by. I think now that a lot of children of this age, early teens, are growing up and having been through lockdown, I think getting them out camping is something that a lot more of them these days haven't sort of been out and done as a group with their peers. They might have done it with families and things, but actually walking along, carrying your kit, getting somewhere, setting up your tent, cooking your tea. I think it's a really good thing to get people into. No, and I was asking, I can't even remember it being offered. I was at Culverhay School in Bath. I can't remember it being offered, but I mentioned it to a couple of friends the other night. They said, oh yeah, we did it. I don't know why I missed it. But,
doing it. I went to school in Wales, but yeah, I remember people doing it, but I wasn't interested at the time. But now I kind of think, oh, that would have been a really cool thing to do.
They might let you do it if you ask nicely. There we are. Okay.
So yeah, good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you. And we're going to move over to Tony now.
Everybody, I think I can reach the microphone. I hope nobody's hugely disappointed that this isn't about photometry. It's cataclysmic variable stars. So what are they? The top two are what I'll spend most of the time talking about, but I thought cataclysmic sounds much more exciting, so I called it that. The next one is the nova is a type of, it's an eruption on one of the first two. The recurrent novae is another type of symbiotic. Supernovae, they're eruptive variable stars. We won't be talking too much about those tonight, and nor will we talk about polars and intermediate polars, although I do make observations of those. So this is the architecture of a typical dwarf nova. Here at the centre you've got the white dwarf surrounded by an accretion disk, and the secondary star of this binary system is a red dwarf. The red dwarf is donating material to the primary, the white dwarf, via this mass transfer stream here, and where it crashes into the accretion disk, you get a hot spot where the material gets heated up. This system spins around very quickly. Typically, these go around in about 4 hours, 6 hours. Some of them can be as quick as 40 minutes, others up to 12 hours. But in order to get that high speed, it does imply that this distance, the separation of the stars is very small. In fact, most of them are less than a solar radius. The high rotation speed means you've got a lot of angular momentum. So as the material falls in towards the white dwarf at the center, it spins up. So you might think this red dwarf is orbiting in a anti-clockwise direction. In fact, it's going the other way, it's going clockwise. And this mass transfer stream speeds up and spins up ahead of it. So in the sequence of events that we see as the eclipse takes place, the hotspot just precedes the appearance of the red dwarf, and we'll hopefully see that later. The accretion disk goes into outburst. As in a typical system, the mass transfer stream here, the rate of mass transfer is higher than the rate of accretion onto the white dwarf. And so the disk fills up, and as it does so, it gets hot. Friction causes more heating. You've got a plasma orbiting in a very strong magnetic field. These stars have strong magnetic fields. And so you get further heating. There's the kinetic energy of the material orbiting around here and spiraling inwards. It loses kinetic energy. It radiates away heat and light and a full range of wave bands. And so it falls in to the center of the white dwarf here. And as it does so, the accretion rate therefore becomes bigger than the mass transfer rate, and the disk empties, and the system goes back to quiescence. So the sources of variability in these stars, we can see variability because of the orbital period. So as the various light sources in the system rotate, we see variations in light. The first one here, the hot spot we've described. The next, following the hot spot, we get an eclipse by the red dwarf of virtually the whole system. It blocks out the white dwarf and the accretion disk. Typically, as we said, 4 to 6 hour period. We've mentioned disk outbursts and the mechanism, and finally nova outbursts. As this material accumulates on the surface of the white dwarf, it builds up a thick layer. Eventually, that layer gets sufficiently deep, and the temperature and pressure at the core, at the base of the layer, where it touches the white dwarf, is sufficient to detonate a thermonuclear explosion. And when we see that happen, that's what we think is a nova. These stars are very faint. They're two dwarf stars, so they're not easy to see, even when they're quite close. They're fairly faint. None of them ever reach naked eye visibility. Very few of them get to binocular brightness. So in centuries past, if you saw one of these novas, one of these stars going off as a nova, you'd have no idea there was anything else there, hence the name nova, new star. So this is the orbital cycle. These are my observations made with a 4-inch telescope and an astro camera. I can't quite read the magnitudes there. I think it's about 13.8 to 14.7 is the amplitude range. So what we see here is over here at the start, we see the first observation up around here, and then a sharp dip, and that's the white dwarf. The red dwarf eclipsing the whole system, the white dwarf and the disk, the accretion disk. Because it's spinning so quickly, this doesn't last very long, and it spins past the accretion disk, and we start to see some of the accretion disk. But here at the minimum, and another one here, we're just looking mainly at light from the red dwarf. It's a bit noisy because it's near the limit of what the system can do, but you can see it's dipping a bit. That's probably the white dwarf coming the white dwarf and the accretion disk cutting out a bit of the light from the red dwarf. And then suddenly we get a big rise to the brightest magnitude on this chart of 13.8, and then the sudden dip again. So this bright rise is the hot spot coming around the edge of the accretion disk, and then quickly followed by the red dwarf blocking the whole system out. So this interval here, these observations were taken over about a 4-hour period, and we've got 2 cycles here, so it's about an 8-hour duration, and that was taken in a night, I can't remember exactly when, a couple of years ago. Now the accretion cycle, this is when we mentioned the disk outbursts. These peaks are about 3-4 months apart in the case of UGEM. You can see my observations of the brown crosses here. This is an extract from observations on the AVSO website. And you can see there's a big range of amplitude here. We're going from magnitude 14 up to brighter than 9. So that's 5 magnitudes, that's a 100-fold light flux change. And that happens over space of just about a couple of hours, really, few hours, maybe a bit more than a couple, but certainly within probably 12 hours, it'll have gone right up from down here up to there. So that's a huge change in brightness, and hence this was the first object that you would classify as a cataclysmic variable that was discovered, and that's probably how they got their name. If you imagine orbiting a star that changes brightness suddenly by 100-fold, you probably know about it. And then the nova cycle. We've mentioned TCRB before. Actually, it's going to be it's a type of star called a recurrent nova, and those are also symbiotics, which is one of the types of stars we mentioned right at the start. Symbiotics are a bit bigger than dwarf novae. The primary here is a big white dwarf. It's about as big as a white dwarf can get, 1.4 solar masses typically. And the secondary here is usually, rather than a red dwarf, it's a red giant. So about a sun-sized star that's evolved to a red giant. The whole thing is bigger, mass transfer is higher. So it goes into nova outbursts rather more frequently. This one is the star we mentioned earlier, actually, and everybody's waiting to see it go into a nova outburst, but it keeps us hanging on at the moment. So there's some subtypes of these stars as well. The nomenclature here, UG means UGEM, so that's the standard dwarf nova, SS for SS Cygni, Z for ZCAM, and SU for SU Ursa Majoris. So we've spoken about these, the basic vanilla type, if you like. If we go on and have a look at a typical light curve of ZCAM, again, this is an extract from the AVSO website. My observations of these brown crosses, and you can see the characteristic of this type of star is that it goes into a standstill. So here we've got very rapid outbursts taking place. The mass transfer rate in these stars is very high, so the disk fills up quickly. It needs to empty quickly, and it's thought that for some reason the mass transfer rate increases and the disk can't empty itself, so it stays stuck in a sort of 2/3 of the maximum brightness in an outburst state. And these outbursts can last for a long time. You can see this is 2018, so this one here lasted several years. That one's ended not long ago, and now it's behaving normally again. But those stars they're quite common and very interesting to follow because you never quite know what they're going to do. And then the last type that we're going to discuss here is the SU Ursa Majoris type of star, and you can see here that we have a variety of types of outbursts. These smaller outbursts here followed by big ones. These are called super outburst, and the cycle, this whole set of outbursts from the normal outburst and the super outbursts taken together are sometimes referred to as a supercycle. You can see actually that here's one super outburst, there's another one, and it's actually now in super outburst. It's blazing away 11.5 magnitude. So if you want to go out and have a look at it, it's a good opportunity to do that. If we focus in on this part of the light curve here and blow it up a bit, we'll see some observations from, and I've credited the observer there because these observations all come from one observer, and it looks as though it's a Polish lady. I think Weronika probably is Veronica, so this kind of thing doesn't have to be done by men. So what we see here is something called a super hump. Hopefully no sniggers, but it's believed to be caused because in a super outburst, the disk is full. The reason it has a super outburst and normal outburst is that in the normal outburst, the disk doesn't empty. Remember I said at the start that it clears down and then the cycle starts again. In the case of these stars, we think it doesn't clear down. So there's a carry forward of material in the disk. When it gets to the super outburst, it does actually clear the whole thing down for some reason. But what it does mean is that the disk gets tidally distorted, so there's some ovaling. And if you think of the major axis of the ellipse shape, that's precessing. And as the red dwarf goes round, it gives it a bump every time it goes round. And that's what we're seeing here. We think there's a pulse as the red dwarf crosses the major axis of the disk each time it does that. So just a quick look at the equipment I use to do that. There's the Dobsonian telescopes that I use, a 16-inch on the right and the 10-inch on the left. This one would allow me to get down, the big one would allow me to get down to about visually magnitude 15.3. In the UK, I take it to Spain with me and I get down to about magnitude 15.9 there, but not so often recently. It's been quite hard to get to as low as 15.3 in the UK in recent times. The 10-inch Dob, I can move around the garden, so most of the observations you saw of ZCAM, for example, I can't see that from where I use this one. So most of the observations of ZCAM will have been done with this one. Binoculars, I use binoculars for the brighter stars. These are 10 by 50s, they go down to about magnitude 7.5. This is a 15 by 70s on a monopod. They'll go down to about magnitude 9.5. And the photometry is done with this 4-inch refractor. It's a basic achromatic refractor. You don't need anything special to do photometry. A ZWO cooled monochrome camera there and a filter wheel. It's now had a focuser added, and there's a little computer here, mounted here, to allow me to run it from inside. So that's all I have to say. If there's any questions, I'll try and answer them. Sorry? Can you swap out a white dwarf for a neutron star? You can get systems that include white neutron stars, but a neutron star and a white dwarf have very different precursors. So those systems would never have a neutron star. I mean, they're not. If the next stage, a neutron star would need a supernova explosion. The next, sorry, can you hear me? Am I walking away from the mic? To get a supernova explosion, one of the types of supernova that we see is a type 1a supernova. So these stars may be precursors of a type 1a supernova, we're not sure. What would have to happen is that particularly the T Corbeau is a potential supernova. It's near its mass, the maximum mass for a white dwarf, 1.4 solar masses. If it accretes material, or if it adds to that mass, then we're not quite sure what happens, but one of the possibilities is you get a type 1a supernova, which we know is it's a star of about mass 1.4 going into a nova explosion. And once the gravitational field exceeds the size of a 1.4 solar mass star, then protons and electrons will react to form neutrons, and the only thing that's stable at that gravitational field is a neutron star. So T Corbeau could potentially become a neutron star, but we think actually type 1a supernova, the whole thing's blown apart, so it probably wouldn't happen. But one of the things that people are looking out for in this upcoming supernova explosion is evidence of whether this star could be a precursor for a type 1a supernova. And what will be critical is for spectroscopists to identify neon in the outburst material early in the explosion. If that's the case, it can only have come from the white dwarf, and if it's a neon white dwarf, it can't produce a type 1a supernova. It also means that the explosion means that rather than adding to the mass of the white dwarf, it's actually reducing. So it suggests it's getting smaller rather than bigger. So it would imply that certainly T-core born stars like it may not be precursors of type 1a supernova. So the other model for a type 1a supernova probably becomes a bit more probable, which is two white dwarfs crashing together. Prim.
How do you actually measure the magnitude when you're doing the observations? How are you actually measuring?
Which one, the visuals or the visuals? You have the BAA and the AVSO publish star charts. So you have standard star fields with stars of known magnitude, and you simply make a visual estimate. You try to identify the brightness of the variable, and I always try to find a star that's a little bit brighter, a little bit fainter. So if you can identify it's a bit fainter than one, bit brighter than the other, you bracket it, then you make an estimate of how far it is between the two stars. And this sounds a bit Heath Robinson, but it's surprisingly accurate for quite a lot of stars. So slow period changing stars, it's things like Myra's with long periods and big amplitudes. It's quite an effective way of doing it. And the best visual observers would hope to get to within plus or minus 0.2 of a magnitude, maybe even 0.1. The photometry, I don't know whether you want me to answer that as well. Okay, yeah.
And do you look at it through the stars that are within the field of view?
Yes, you try. It's difficult. You can do it if the stars aren't in the same field of view, but it gets more difficult the bigger the separation. So yes, it's much easier if you can get them all in the same field of view. Okay.
Thank you very much, sir.
Right, this is only quite a short one because obviously we haven't actually made any of these things yet. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and put some merchandise together. Yeah. And we're going to be selling it through the shop. Is everyone aware that we actually do have a shop on the website? Yeah, well, we do. There's not a lot on it just at the moment, but we will be beefing that up. Now, to reduce the costs of these, because when we get these things made, there's a big setup cost per batch. So what we don't just want to take an order, fulfill the order, take an order, fulfill the order. We want to start batching things together. So we might do that monthly, or if the orders are only dribbling in very slowly, we might want a bunch 2 or 3 months together, all in one go. So that's the sort of model we're going to be working to. Okay. That worked well. Shall I try that? Right, so what we're going to do, first thing we're looking at are hoodies, because we get cold when we're out there in the middle of winter. So we're going to try and do some hoodies, but we're only going to keep it very simple. We're going to go for this design, but they can be in quite a few different colours. But we are going to have an embroidered logo for Bath astronomers on them. Now, we wanted to go for the embroidered one because they will last. We don't want any of the iron-on or the screen print or anything like that, so we're going to embroider them. The problem with embroidering them is here. £20 to set the machine up to do it. So really, if we could put a batch of 10 in, then we're only going to have £2, obviously, per garment to load onto the price. So it looks like we're going to be coming in at around about a £30 mark if we can get a batch of 10 put through. Right. As a gut feel, who here thinks they might go for a hoodie?
A black one, though, I don't want a blue one.
Yeah, colour doesn't matter. I don't think he cares about that. It's just how many.
Or a pink
set the machine up and he starts stitching. So we got a few, so that's good stuff. Next one is the hats. So of course I think we all wear these in the middle of winter, but exactly the same as before. What we want to do is embroider these onto the hats as well. Okay, so it's probably going to be coming out around about £12 each per hat. And again, who might be interested in a hat? I definitely, yeah, quite a few on that. That's great news. Right, so we do have some interest. Right, and another thing we're going to be having on the shop is a calendar. So, and all the shots in there are from us. Right, so we've produced all of these shots. I've put them all into a calendar. This is the one we did back in the spring. It was too late to actually put onto the website, so it's all 2025. Okay, but what we'll do is roll this calendar on. We'll start selling this something like September, October, November, something like that, for 2026. And over here, this is that actual calendar. So if you afterwards, if you want to come and have a look, you can see the sort of quality of the images, the quality of the card it's been printed on. And they're probably going to be coming out at about a tenner. Okay, it doesn't actually matter, there's no setup on these things. So we can actually, they'll always be roughly that price.
Are the images for each month that we can take during that?
No. I did sort of do it. I'll put a lot of the solar shots were in the summer, and the other ones, yeah, spread all over the winter. So it is a little bit, but you can't use it as a guide to what to shoot for next year. Yeah. Okay, calendars, gut feel, who might be wanting after a calendar? Oh, not as many. Oh dear, we're gonna have to try and push them a bit harder. Okay. Say that again, sorry. Oh, right. If these were the desk ones, then they'll be cheaper as well. You know, the ones that open up and sit on your desk. Who might be interested in them? Diary. We'll look at it.
They're sort of, I think the sort of A5, you've got a picture on one half and a monthly review on the other, so you could put...
You can scribble on it. Yeah.
You just stick in your bag and...
Right. We'll see. Doesn't seem to be a huge demand for calendars, though. I thought that would be the great one. I thought that's what everybody would go for. Oh well. No, but you can look at it. You can gaze longingly at the pictures.
How about if I drape myself on various famous telescopes? Maybe.
Right, so in summary, hoodies, woolly hats and calendars. We're going to be selling them through the online shop, right? It won't be just order it, dribbling them out. We're going to try and batch them together so we can get some economies of scale. Okay, so it looks like hoodies and hats, pretty good. Calendars, maybe not quite so much. Oh well. Surely everybody that's got a picky in there, you're both in there for starters. We'll want one. Well, we don't want to print off and expose ourselves to the expense of doing that, and then we'll end up sat on the shelf.
No, I was just going to say, like, if in the meetings in October and November, say, you have them there, because people buy them for Christmas presents, don't they? So, like,
Yeah.
calendars and things people buy.
Maybe we'll do a few or something. We don't want to sort of start buying stock, and then as soon as you hit January, who's going to buy a calendar for the next year? So we would rather do it on, buy them in on order. Okay, that's all I was going to be. Oh yeah, sorry.
Did you envisage little button badges as well? Did I see that somewhere?
I think there is something already on the website for those, isn't there?
Have you not got a hoodie and a hat we can see?
No.
See what it looks like?
No. Okay, that's all I was going to say. Right. So in the autumn is probably when we'll start kicking this off. Okay. Do come and have a look at these afterwards. I'm sure it'll tickle your fancy.
Everyone, sorry, apologies for not having a nice slideshow for you, but we're still early days now. As Simon mentioned, next year we've got 50th anniversary of Bath Astronomers, so I would provisionally, if you've got a diary or a calendar for next year, put the 24th of March in your diaries. Yeah, for those of you with phone calendars, you can get straight ahead. So we've set up a sort of subcommittee, myself, Mia and Merrick at the moment, to discuss sort of what we want to achieve through this event. And we've only had one meeting so far, so I'm just going to give you sort of roughly what we've thought along the lines of. So we think we'd like to do something with the general public, engage them somehow, and we're thinking of a daytime event that would be a fun activity for, say, a family to do, and also would introduce them maybe to Bath astronomers that they might not be aware of. We'd also like to use the opportunity to engage with various organisations. So we've got Bath Bid, there's Bath City College, there's Bath Spa University. So we thought it'd be a nice opportunity if we can somehow try and engage or increase our sort of workings with those organisations. And of course, the main event that we'd like to do would be for our members, so that we have something that we can celebrate for our membership. So initial thoughts that we've come up with are for a daytime event, we're thinking of something that might involve maybe a trail around the university. So we were thinking possibly like an art exhibitions that we could have sort of around Bath City Centre, and we could hand out leaflets maybe, and kids and families could go around and take note of what they've seen. So this might involve working with sort of Bath City College or with Bath Spa University. And there could be a prize draw, so they could bring their findings or their photographs or whatever to a central point, and we could give out prizes to children, just to try and get some engagement going. That's what we're thinking for the day. For the evening, the current thinking is to have maybe a nice event where we would perhaps dress up, have a nice science fiction themed bar possibly, and some music, and then followed by a showing of a film, maybe a classic sci-fi film or a documentary or something like that, and have everybody, so we could have a bit of mingling at the start, some drinks, and then sit down and watch a film together. Those are our thoughts at the moment. Nothing is set in stone. What we wanted to do today was just ask you guys to have a think about what you might like. We're looking at different options in terms of venues around Bath, because we'd quite like to have it in the city centre if we could. So we've got various different options in mind that we're going to go and talk to. We're not sure whether to have this cinema screening at an actual cinema or whether we try and do something at an event like a place like this. But if anybody has any ideas, please do reach out to us. If anybody would like to get involved, do volunteer yourselves. Now, it might be that you want to be involved in the actual organisation, or it might be that you'd like to be involved on the day itself, because it might be that we have different marshals around the city or people handing out leaflets to get families to go around and take part in the events. But have a think about how you'd like to be involved, and reach out to myself, Mia, Merrick, well, and Simon as well, any of the members, in fact. I think that's all I've got to say, really.
Maybe contact him and ask if you've got one of his pieces that he could lend you.
Oh, yeah, we could ask. What's the budget, Simon, did you say? Did we have a budget? That's another thing we've got to work on, is the budget. But yeah, that's a lovely thought. Yes, we helped out with that, with the moon as well. And Gaia.
You know what I really liked? I think it was the year before last when we did that thing at Vale, when we had
The party,
like
planetarium.
and we had the planetarium there. That was like, you know, obviously it's probably in Bath City Centre, like you probably can't do the level of stargazing that we did there, although it wasn't very clever that night. But I think having the planetarium would be a really nice idea on the members' night, like, because that was it was really cool. Like, that was a good thing to have.
Yeah, maybe on the race course or on the rack.
It was like, we had it in like, it was like in a room. It was like,
It was the sort of village hall. Yeah, village hall.
So it was like the time, but it was like, that was, I really enjoyed that night that we did them on that. There's not been anything
Great.
like that.
I mean, yeah, we might well incorporate something like that. We want it to be sort of more of a celebratory kind of event rather than just a kind of a normal members' party. So we'd like to kind of have some sort of celebratory element to it. And we were also thinking of perhaps launching something new for that, you know, that Bath Astronomers is starting to do something. We don't know what that something is yet. We were wondering about some sort of events for children to get more participation from children or something along those lines, but it's not something we've ironed out yet.
Obviously, that like 24th is what, that's a Tuesday, so that is a weeknight. So would you be planning to have the evening event on that actual day?
Well, originally we were thinking weekend, but when you look at hiring event places, it usually turns out to be a lot cheaper on a Tuesday night than it does on a weekend night. So it might actually make sense to do it on a weekday.
What about if you had something on the rec? Because that's citizen space.
It's something we could look at. I mean, yeah, it's not really in the city centre, but it's something we could certainly look at. I mean, it could be that we do a week-long event as well. You know, that's another possibility. Jade.
You mentioned about going to the cinema or showing the film.
Yeah.
Dressing up before. Are you thinking about dressing up as a star night?
Potentially, yes. That would be quite nice. Yeah.
I think the only thing with like a film is that it's probably not very interactive between people. So if it, like personally, my opinion would be if I'm going to a social event, I would like to be able to interact with the people and chat with the people about astronomy or like maybe you're explaining really cool seeing the photos and stuff. But I feel like if I'm just going to go watch a film, I'm just sat there watching a film.
That's why we were thinking of having a bar with some music and some space type thing beforehand. So we do all the chatting and talking at that point and then go to the film. That was going to be the last bit, if you like, to finish off the evening.
The little theatre is quite nice.
It is. I've looked at prices before. They're quite high if you want to hire it out, but we're going to, see if we can do something with them. I mean,
I've been to sort of a piano concert, sort of then they're playing a movie afterwards.
right. Right.
They have drinks and stuff there as well, so it's quite a good.
It's a lovely venue, yeah. We were also thinking of, I can't remember the name of the one in town, Mia, what's it called? The other one, Everyman. That's also an option because they've got quite a big area where you could actually, they've got a big bar and a large area where you could have quite a number of people sort of milling and talking before doing a showing. So that's another option as well. But do come forward. I don't think we're going to set up a WhatsApp group, but do come forward with any, you can reach out to us on WhatsApp or by email or in person, of course, and bring forth any ideas that you have. I don't think we're going to do a trip to see the solar eclipse. Unfortunately, I don't think the budget's going to cover that, much as we'd like to. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, well, that draws the evening to a close, and that's the end of our season. There'll still be things going on over the summer. There'll still be solar events, the fetes and fairs, etc. So you'll get notified those by email, but our next official sort of get-together will be on, is it the 24th of September for Dr. Robert Massey here. Oh, we'll miss you.
I'm sure you will.
But please feel free. We've got loads of communication channels, so just utilise them: WhatsApp, email, face-to-face, telephone, whatever you need. Let's just keep the energy going, because when we get through to back end of August, we start getting the darker nights coming in. So actually there's good time to be out there, warmer skies, and actually enjoying and learning constellations in your shorts and T-shirt. And of course, we've got meteor showers, so around August the 12th to 13th. We've got our regular favourite, the Perseid meteor shower. So no doubt we'll have something in and around that. But thank you very much, and we'll see you in the coming seasons.